Welcome everyone on YouTube and the Manhattan School of Music website. This is Manhattan School of Music Conversations Over 80, where I interview wonderful, amazing people who've had a big impact on the life and the history of Manhattan School of Music. And we take this opportunity to hear their journey, their stories, and to share their views about the world of music and how they've been such an integral part of it. It's an incredible honor today to welcome Mignon Dunn, the dramatic mezzo-soprano extraordinaire. This is the over 80 group conversation. She makes it under the list because she's turning 94 in 2 days. So we are thrilled and honored that you're able to be with us here today. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. I love to be at Manhattan School of Music because I really am, I think it's an incredible faculty, and I'm going to miss a lot of them next year because the three of them have left, and they're three of my best friends.
Neil and Maitland?
Yeah,
right.
Neil, Maitland, and Mark.
Mark
Oswald.
Oswald, that's right. So before we start, I'm going to do the obligatory and very much exciting thing to do is to tell you about Miss Dunn. So you get to hear your lovely resume, and I'm going to read. I've cut it down. It's such a long one, but it's so important for everyone. Now, of course, everyone who knows you and people in the future, just so they hear who you are. Mignon Dunn has sung the leading mezzo-soprano roles in the most important opera houses of the world. In Europe, she has sung at La Scala, Milan, the Vienna Staatsoper, London Royal Covent Garden, Paris Opera, Moscow Bolshoi, the Hamburg Staatsoper, Deutsche Oper Berlin, and opera companies of Frankfurt and Dusseldorf. In South and Central America, she's performed at the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, the Opera Nacional in Chile, Mexico City's Bellas Artes, and the Opera Puerto Rico. In Canada, at the Canadian Opera Company and the Opera de Montreal. United States, Chicago Lyric, the San Francisco, the Santa Fe Opera Company of Boston, the Opera Theater of Detroit, and the New Orleans and Miami operas. At the Metropolitan Opera, she has sung 653 performances over a span of 35 years. She's especially known for her portrayals of the dramatic Italian roles, including in Aida, Trovatore, Don Carlo, Gioconda, and Cavalieri. Her French rep includes Samson and Delilah, Tales of Hoffmann, and as well as Don Quixote, and of course Carmen, which she has sung over 400 times in 4 different languages. Her German rep embraces leading mezzo roles in different productions of Wagner's Ring, and then Lohengrin, Parsifal, and Tannhäuser. She's given many performances of Strauss operas, including Elektra, Salome, and other operas including Genufa, Rusalka, and Boris Godunov. You're sensing a theme here. Miss Dunn has performed recitals all over Europe and the United States and has sung with major symphony orchestras including New York Phil and Chicago and Los Angeles, and Philadelphia and Detroit and Cincinnati and Hamburg and Vienna. Her rep includes Mahler and Ravel and Verdi. She has recorded for Deutsche Grammophon and EMI. She has done master classes all over the world. She has been on the faculties of University of Texas in Austin, Illinois, Northwestern, and Brooklyn College. And she has been with us at Manhattan School of Music on the voice faculty since 1988. And that's the reduced bio. So you get a real theme of incredible, diverse artists. It's just an exceptional, all of what you were able to do. So I want to start at the beginning and talk about when you were growing up and how you got into music and singing and how that happened, when it sort of struck you that you wanted to do this.
They taught me a song, and that was it.
How old were you?
I never would practice piano, which was terrible, because I regretted that a lot.
You're not the only singer who has said that.
I'm not very good, huh?
You're not the only singer who has said that.
No, I wish that I had put a little bit more into that. But I wanted to sing. I loved to sing. That's all I wanted to do. And they kicked me out of the county contest because they had us singing shortening bread. And I thought you were supposed to move around, so that's what I did, and they threw me right out. So I mean,
oh my goodness!
No, seriously. But I won something. I've forgotten what it was.
I was reading that your first voice teachers they were Branzel and Peck Johnson. How did you connect? With them?
Well, I sang from the Met used to cut me. Just was a lucky kind of thing, and my mother wanted to know whether I was any good. So she was very practical, but the Met was there, and she thought, well, I should sing for some of these people so they could tell me I'm terrible or do something else or whatever,
How old were you then?
17. And so anyways, it happened that there was a really great tenor, James Melton. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. But he did a lot of television, a lot of radio when television was very early. But I think he thought that, okay, his mother turned out to be a friend of my mother's.
Oh.
And you know how that is. So anyway, she put it on and he had to listen to me. And so I sang for him in the middle of a break in rehearsal. He was rehearsing a big radio show. And I think he thought he'd find out somebody would be very frightened, and I loved every minute of it, of course, you know. And so then he got me an audition with the powers that be, because they were listening. They listen always. They're always listening. They're always, and which is great. So they told my mother that they liked me a lot, and if I would come to New York, if and when I would come to New York, let them know, and they would find me a teacher, and that was Carmen Bronzell.
I see. Okay.
So I was here 15 minutes, and my mother said, "How do you like it?" I said, "Oh, I have to live here," and that's what I've done all my life. You know, I've lived in Europe a lot, but this has always been home, and that's the way I feel that way.
You did your New York City Opera debut. You were 28, I believe. And then you were again in 57 and 72 and 75. When I read that, and then I heard all about the Met. Before you tell me how you got to the Met, what was it like to be at the Met for all those productions and performances, but then occasionally go across the plaza to see opera?
You know, you always, if you're lucky, you get to sing with really good conductos. And Julius Rudel was at New York City Opera, and I sang with him in Hamburg, I sang with him in Paris, and he was a great conductor and a great friend. So every once in a while he was stuck and had a car, I had to do a Carmen, and I did it. He just called me and I would do, yeah, sure. The Met, you know, it's across the street, so it's okay.
Right.
Wasn't then across the street, but he was wonderful, and we worked together wonderfully.
During that time, was there a lot of people from the Met doing City Opera?
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of the crossover.
Oh,
because there were
yes.
times when people would be.
I just can't believe it if I go in there and I see the first floor just not full, because we never got out of the curtain calls. It was always a half hour to 40 minutes.
Sure.
You know, and we had really good people, and they still have very wonderful people. And I hear that I just haven't been to anything this year because I had this thing with my leg, which is going away, thank goodness.
That's good news.
And but the Met is a wonderful house, because it's a huge house, but you don't feel that enormous distance when you get on the stage of the Met, because it's not. Somehow it's closer. It's built close in, and I know that there is one very good house and a very good company, so I'm not going to say which one it was, but if you get on the stage, you wonder if there's an audience out there, because they're so far away, you know, and it's a great house. But you go to some of the houses in Europe, and my favorites were Vienna and Paris. I just got to say that. But they're great houses in Germany. I loved Hamburg and Berlin, but Vienna was incredible.
And what made them your favorite?
I don't know. They just felt good. They just felt really good. I love Paris, and it's so charming, you know, just by itself, because I did the downtown one, you know, not the new one, but Paris was a fabulous place, is a fabulous place. I don't know, I feel very good there.
One of our graduates, Janine DeBeek, just did her debut there.
Good.
Yeah, and we had a little reception for her here in New York when she did her Carnegie Hall debut.
Great.
And she was talking about the Paris experience being just fantastic.
No, Paris is wonderful. If they like you, you know, and it's really nice.
It's the same in Vienna, right? Vienna can be tough.
Vienna's great.
But if they like you, they like you.
I was really tempted to stay there. I was very tempted, because they asked me for, very nicely, they asked me for 29 performances right after the second act of Carmen, when I sang there first, and I couldn't take any of them because I was busy. I couldn't take a one, but I felt so good, and I was so glad that they liked me. The one kind of dicey thing in Vienna is the pitch is about a half tone high, And Martina, who I just spoke to yesterday, Arroyo, and Martina has high notes like nobody in the whole world has high notes like her. But I'll tell you, a half tone makes a huge
Oh, yeah.
difference. Whoa.
High C sharp instead of a high C.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the orchestra A's have been going higher
well,
and higher.
you have a few B naturals in the Aida, and I thought, I think I'll turn my head or something. You know, I mean, I don't think they're gonna let everybody know that I'm terrified. Anyway.
I'm sure you handled it well. How did you come to sing at the Met for the first time? They knew of you, obviously.
Well, they had been really they were very nice to me, and they paid for lessons, and they were interested, and I started with little bitty parts, of course. But I just loved them. I loved it. I loved the Met. I loved the people I got to work with, and I can't say enough good things about it.
So your first conductor at the Met, do you remember who that was?
Well, one of the most important, I would say the most important to me was Fausto Kleber, who was very difficult, but really wonderful. But there were some, and Carl Böhm was there, who was also great, and Zubin was there too, Zubin Mehta, and we had great conductors.
This was all before Levine, right?
Oh, yes.
Because he didn't have a lot of guest conductors.
Well, he was one great conductor.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, incredible, and he could fix it. I remember, though, I was thinking, I've forgotten what it was, but he knew that I was nervous about it. He's got 100 people who are doing exactly what he wants to do, and he's looking up at me going, breathe, breathe, breathe.
Nice.
Okay.
yes, sir.
Sure, you know.
So you spent all this time at the Met. How were you able to balance that with all these trips to Europe? Like, was it...
You just...
Singers are always asking that question, like, be careful what you wish for, because when you get busy, how do you balance it?
You just fly, that's all. And Lufthansa was really good to opera singers, because because not everybody would fly first class all the time.
Right.
But every time they had a seat in first class, they would give it to me, which was really, really nice, really nice.
It's a big difference.
No, I really appreciate it. And then one day they were just absolutely, totally full, and they came back with a rose because they couldn't give me a seat. But they were really so nice.
Wow,
They're so nice to us.
Sounds like
really.
a different era. I don't think they give you a rose today. No. So we live in the age of the director today, basically, right? And they say before that was more the age of the conductor. Do you have specific directors you would like to talk about that you enjoyed?
Yes, I loved good. I mean, we had great directors. We had Nat Merrill, and we had so many good people, and we had, he was on Broadway an awful lot. And he taught me to be still.
Interesting.
All of a sudden on here, oh, good grief. She's got her hands on the furniture again. You know, just don't move. And he was a musical. I mean, he was the director for quite a while, and he was great.
Did you work in Europe with him or here?
No, I worked at the Met, and I did work in Europe too. I worked with him in Hamburg, and I think we did Boris. I did Boris Godunov with that one. And we did that in Germany.
And Zeffirelli experiences?
No, I never got to work with him, but I always liked him so much. I thought he was great.
Right.
But I never did get to work with him. I didn't do his shows.
You weren't in his shows, right? Okay. Did you ever get to do Bayreuth for Wagner?
No. And I was asked, and there was a little discussion about it because I was singing in the first week of when they opened the new house. And Mr. Big was simply not going to let me do it, and that was all there is to it. I think he was a great director of an opera house. I was scared to death of him, but and I certainly didn't like all the things he did for me. But you have to say that the man was an incredible opera director because he knew what was going on every minute. And he knew what we needed to. You know, I think people, for example, don't appreciate the prompter. until you have 3 performances in the same week in 3 different languages.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then you can absolutely, I was at the Arena di Verona, and Franco Corelli, one of the nicest people in the whole world, who was adorable, he was the Jose. And I had already done it a lot in Germany, and I had done it in 2 productions, 2 different translations.
Okay.
So I was doing my first Italian one, and all of a sudden in the second act, I went into German. And I looked at Franco, and he was like, he's white as a sheet.
What is happening?
And I wanted to say to him, listen, I'll be back in just a minute. I know where I am, and I know I can get back. But I was thinking, so I got back very quickly, and he looked at me, and his eyes were huge anyway, and great colleague, great colleague.
Wow. You obviously have really been a dedicated teacher, and that you enjoy that. And there are lots of people, I mean, this is my opinion, but there are many voice teachers. They're not all necessarily, well, they have varying degrees of understanding of how to teach the voice, but you are universally loved for being a great teacher. When did that become important to you? And when did you start doing the teaching?
I tell you the truth. Since I was a lazy student with the piano, I made sure, and I didn't always do this, and then I have some mistakes that I did because I didn't catch. It was a half a page maybe somewhere, that just had all the notes that I didn't have, and I'm perfectly honest about it. Kundry was one of them, and there were 5 pages there that I was just terrible. And I hadn't checked it out. I just thought it was in the same kind of, and it's the end of the 3 or 4 pages, and it's soprano. But I mean, I know that Krista Ludwig did it beautifully, and she was a mezzo, but she was higher than me,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you have to, what I like is if we can give the tools to the young singers, and they're smart.
So when did you first start teaching? Like, do you remember?
I didn't sing. I wasn't teaching when I was singing.
At all? Okay.
No, I didn't, but I was storing away little things, because you really kind of have to know how to tell people, not show them, but tell them what's going on, because everybody's got a different jaw and everybody's got a different tongue, and thank God,
That makes sense. So you've been at Manhattan School for 34 years, according to the date on the website. How would you say, or if this has happened, singers have changed or students have changed? That's over 3 decades in terms of the kind of people going into voice, the challenges they have. I mean, every generation has its own.
Well, I think that Manhattan is very realistic because I think they have 2 years that people should take before they go into a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
And the trouble about that when they go into a doctorate too early, they don't really know how to tell people what to do. They want to show them, and if you're singing 7 hours a day, you have about 3 years about that.
Right. You're not going to have a long teaching.
It doesn't help you too much,
But in terms of the students, I mean, the kids that came to you in '88 versus the kids that come to you now, do they have different expectations? I mean, there will be similarities, of course, but the profession keeps changing, and I just wondered if you've seen any changes over the time you've been here, the kind of kids are coming to sing and what they're expecting.
As I say, I know I sound like I'm just a cheerleader for Manhattan, but I totally believe in the school. And I know a lot of people who are now alumni, and they learned it correctly. I mean, they learn it thoroughly here, and they're the great teachers at this school, and great coaches. And I have one student who's not allowed to play for lessons yet, but he's a fantastic young pianist. And I have another one who is, and he just eats the music up. He just loves it, and he learns it, and he gets it right, and he's a joy, really.
Wow.
There are just so many talented people here.
What do you think about, and this is one of those questions that's so generic, but it's so important, the future of opera, like where opera is in America?
Oh, I think we've had bad times before. And I think we'll have them again, but I think people want it, they love it. If you're an opera fan, you're an opera fan, and you're going to always be an opera fan. Not that I love good plays, I mean, but
Of course, it's not either.
but one has not. I mean, the people need the theater.
I agree. No, I agree. It's just we talk about the number of possibilities for singers in America. Then there's the whole, the scene is a bit more robust in Europe. There's more funding, of course.
Yes.
And, you know, I talk with, I mean, I conduct opera, so I'm an orchestral conductor, and they talk about in America about there are fewer opportunities. Not that there aren't great opportunities, and this isn't to be negative, but certain teachers have different opinions about how to tackle your career, like how to find a way to get out there and, you know, there are fewer companies with big budgets at the moment, that sort of thing.
Well, I think it's not bad you don't have to just sing opera. I didn't, because I worked for 1 year at the Latin Quarter doing production singer because they paid me well and I paid my rent.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just kind
That's important.
You just kind of do that, you know. And I also worked in Las Vegas, and I worked with Milton Berle, who taught me a great deal.
Oh, what was that like, working with Milton Berle?
He was wonderful, because he could, there were 6 of us, and my boyfriend, who was a great baritone, was in the 6th. And we had a great time, because we were in Las Vegas one time almost a whole year. And we had such a good time. But Milton could dance. Milton could do lights. Milton could usually play anything that the orchestra was playing. He could go in and play anything.
Wow.
And he was an incredible theater man. And he came to the Met. And of course he couldn't resist. When everybody applauded, he got up and bowed. You know, I mean, you couldn't take that away from him, you know. But I learned a great deal from him.
When was that in your life?
Before I got an honest job, you know, before I could make a living. I think it's before I got to City Opera, you know, because New Orleans, I won a contest, and actually I was going to wear a very good black dress that I had bought at the what is it? Charity thing?
An auction?
Yeah.
Charity event? Yeah.
Yeah, and I had bought this black dress for 75 cents. And it was really pretty. There was not a lot of it, but it was a nice dress. But I also had one dress that I had saved and bought and so forth, and it was with the long sleeves, and it was that's what I was going to sing in. And I put the iron right through it when I was trying to press it.
Oh, no.
So I wore the black dress.
Right.
And so they gave me a Carmen. And that was my debut down there.
Okay.
So, and you remember Norman Traegle. Mm-hmm. Well, Traegle sort of got me a gig at City Opera of Carmen. And I read the reviews, and the first one just laid me to dust. And then the second one was really a good one. It was a wonderful one. I thought, okay.
Well, that's a good reason to sometimes ignore reviews or stick with it, because you can get those one-offs.
Oh, I've been those. I've gotten those. Oh, yes, of course.
Where they're not happy. When you mentioned Carmen, it brings to mind when we were talking about directors that role especially has, you know, a reputation for being very sensual and depending on how it's played and how it's directed. And, you know, there are stories of productions where it's gone quite far in terms of the sexuality. You've obviously, with all those performances, must have had a wide range of ways in which you were directed to play the sensualness
Yeah,
of
but
it.
you know, I think a decent director is always going to listen to his artist, you know, if he has any respect for her or him. And I worked with some great directors who taught me a lot, you know.
So you didn't find yourself in certain Carmen situations where they were trying to push you too far?
Well, they didn't push that very, very, very far, because I would just look really stupid and not understand it. And I thought that was probably the best way to do it.
Oh, I don't understand. Okay, I understand.
What?
What?
That one we don't have time to do it again. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Well, we'll do it next production. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's all the singers out there. That's some good advice. If someone's giving you a hard time, just say you don't understand. I like that. That's excellent. So how many, when you're teaching Manhattan over these years, what's your average studio size? How many people have you worked with?
Well, this is the littlest what I've ever had. It was about 9 because I had this damn shingles thing. And so I couldn't, I really don't like to teach virtually. I don't mind doing it, and I have done it. And I do it, in summer things and things like that. And, or usually it's one role that you work on. But usually it's 20 something.
It's a healthy size without being insane.
Well, I've had it in my class. I've had people. I've had over 30.
Now, what class do you teach here?
I teach how to learn an opera.
How to learn an opera?
Yeah.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well,
it's such an easy topic.
It's the thing. No, it is. It's not easy at all. It's
course.
just that you have got to really, really, truly, really learn every note of it. You have to learn it. You have to know what it means. And the more I sang, the more I realized that you have to know what you're talking about. But I mean every note. And you can't lose that little half a page that has the worst notes in it. Either you better look at that or you're going to get in trouble.
Well, the singers that you encounter this, which always blows my mind, they show up to a production and think that they're going to learn the rest of it or learn the difficult page. And it's like, no, there's somebody else who will show up knowing it perfectly. You're not going to do yourself any favor. So I remember I was assisting Steve Osgood here years ago, and it was an opera scenes, and it was the third weekend or something. And he said, well, this is going to be Memory Day. But he was assisting in Santa Fe at the time. He said, just so you know, in the real world, there's no such thing as Memory Day. You have to show up with it. And you think it's a silly comment, but it's not. He was completely right, because there were certain singers that just think that they're always going to be helped along to the last minute. So it's great that you're teaching a class like that.
So, and you've got to know all the notes. You've got to know what you're saying. You have to know the rhythm, and you have to know what's in the orchestra. It depends on, because I mean, it looks so much like, we were looking at, I think, Gioconda yesterday. I was working with a tenor. And the Cielo e Mar is not a heavily orchestrated aria, but you want a certain sound with it. And then he would go into a Verdi, which was, it's like bread and butter. Verdi just knew. He did know. But I sure love Gioconda.
Yeah, it brings me back to you saying you wished you would practice the piano more.
I really wish
Because
I
I find that singers, in my experience, this has just been my experience, that singers who play the piano and they can play through some of the parts more and they can look at the other parts.
I think so too.
I don't mean that they can necessarily play it all.
Of course it is.
But it's such a different experience for understanding what's going on in the orchestra and not just, where's my note coming from?
No. Right. You got to know what you're singing with. You have to.
So what, Manhattan still have to take some kind of piano course, don't they?
Oh, I think so.
You do, you're right. So you have to at least be able to plunk your part out. But
I am such a big fan of Manahan. I think he's a wonderfully talented conductor. We're so lucky to have him. We've got a lot of great people in this.
And everyone asks this question, everybody, because it's so important. People are always saying, you had a great career, what advice do you have for us, right? Everyone asks that. But there's a reason they ask. And so I'm going to ask you, like, if you have a student that's graduating with their master's, and what are the sort of 3 things you say, this is what you need to be doing to really get a career? I mean, one of them, I guess, would be the know your opera inside and out. But
that's really the beginning, and you really have to take care of your instrument. I don't mean you have to be an idiot, or that you act like you have to keep your throat covered the whole thing. I mean, but you have to take care. You have to know. For example, I'm talking about a singer now. You better start work if you have the summer off, which you never do. You really don't have the summers off, but take your vacation, but take it early. So you need that last month before, when you start a new season, to get your voice in shape. And it's gonna take 3 weeks. I mean, you're not gonna, unless you've just been sort of halfway singing and singing a great deal or whatever. But you have to have a few weeks off, you do. But you have to get yourself back in shape, and you have to take the time to do it. And you have to have some people that you trust. If you listen to them and they say, that doesn't, that's not quite or whatever, or that sounds nosy or too bright or something, I don't know. But you have to listen to people that you trust. Don't listen to everybody.
If you listen to everybody, especially in opera, they'll,
No.
you're not a mezzo, you're a bass. You're not you're a spinto. It's like, everyone's got a blinking opinion, right? So,
Yeah.
and well, that brings up too when young singers get offered a role that they shouldn't be singing at that age. Like if their voices are growing, or if it's like, oh, do Butterfly. And it's like, no. So advice for singers not to just take anything that comes along, even if it feels tempting, because it could be wrong for you.
Well, I think I sang my first Trovatore when I was 27. And I can tell you the places right now that were not so good.
Right, okay.
And then I sang a lot of them, and you learn,
Right.
Because you really need, and I've forgotten who told me this first, but who was a great, wonderful person was Richard Tucker. And he said, now listen, Minnie, you got to take a breath here. Well, I don't want to take a breath here, Richard. I just, you got to take a breath here. That's it. Okay. I mean, it was just easier to do it, He and his wife were wonderful. And we always find a good place, good Jewish restaurant after a performance, because, you go to a party and they serve you creamed cream of cream or something,
Right.
You don't need, you want something solid to eat.
Speaking of, did you ever? You probably didn't, but I shouldn't assume. Did you ever work with Roberta Peters?
Who?
Roberta Peters.
Oh, yes, she's darling.
We were actually, this is my one name drop. We were very good friends, and I accompanied her for years at the temple. And I just adored her and
What a
so
lovely,
much.
lovely person.
So you mentioned Tucker, because she would always talk about him,
Yeah.
and that whole group.
But Richard was, and Sarah and his wife was precious, and they were so good to me. And I appreciate that so much.
And what about Meryl?
Who I love very much too, love her right now, is Leontine Price. I mean, I really have never heard anybody that sang more beautifully, Just was wonderful. And she was such a funny, fine, terrific person, She is a terrific person. But on the stage, for somebody who is, just kind of beginning to get, so we sang Butterflies forever. And we called ourselves the Isolde and Brunhilde of Nagasaki. Because they're these two rather large girls,
Oh, that's fun. Oh, I love it.
But Lord, did she sing beautiful.
Speaking of of course, the great Jessie Norman. Were you ever in her?
Jessie and I, we had a good time together. I've forgotten what we sang together, but we did have we laughed a lot. And I think we did one Aida together at the Hollywood Bowl. And she decided she did it, she went on and did it, I think, in Berlin, but she decided that wasn't her thing, So she didn't want to do it anymore, But the Hollywood Bowl was fun, You never knew what was coming out of the woods if you were up in the audience, what kind of creature. But
so that you've alluded to some fun stories. I know that people watching, any stories you have, they are dying to hear. Opera, what is it? Giulini, the conductor, said opera is like a train. If it arrives in the station all in one piece, then it's gone well. So there are always moments where the train almost doesn't make it. Do you have? There was your temporary German moment in Carmen. Do you have some other fun examples of near misses, or just that's funny to laugh at afterwards, but in the moment felt a little scary in some of
Well, I remember you make up things, because I tripped and landed on my knees. I think it was in Mexico. And I think we were doing Favorita. I'm not quite sure what it was. But I sailed in on my knees. And so then I just bowed to the tenor. I didn't know who it was or anything. But somebody I thought would help me get up, and they did. So we got through that.
And the audience thought, oh, what interesting directing. She came in like this and got,
Well, like I did it on purpose,
Right, exactly.
And then there was one costume that I think it was in Strasbourg in France. I couldn't get up. So it'd take two people to get me off. If I did a curtsy, it would just, all that heavy fabric pooled around on the floor, and it just like people were holding
What was
you
that
down.
like to sing in?
That was, well,
I mean,
you just do. I
you
don't
just
know.
do. You make
yeah,
it,
exactly.
you make get through it. But
There's sometimes that you have to say something, and they have to maybe take one petticoat off or something, you know. But in general, people act right. Once in a while, you have trouble with somebody, but not that often. I don't think so. You know, I mean, you can't. There really is no time for that. You can't have a fit and then expect anybody to put up with it, number one. And number two, how do you put up with it, you know? So you can't really...
that makes me think of the question of, are there fewer fits being had? Because without getting into names, we obviously know of people who were famous for slowing down productions and being very difficult, but it seems like there isn't as much patience for that anymore. It's like we got time
We
and
have
money.
to go. No, we got to go.
And there's someone right behind you who's really good who could do it.
Yeah.
Do you have any leading men?
Huh?
Leading men fun stories in terms of course you do, but
I love Franco. I love to work with him, Franco Corelli. I loved John Vickers. I mean, there's so many wonderful tenors. And I loved Cappuccilli because he was also funny, Piero Cappuccilli. And come on, Cornell MacNeil, all the, you know, they're just wonderful people. And the wonderful people that Renata Tebaldi was so sweet and so nice. And Zinka was so funny and cute and didn't mean to be cute many times, but she would take you and just march to the front of the stage. I mean,
here we go.
And I was always her mother, you know?
Right.
So I don't think I ever sang the Laura when she was doing Gioconda, which she was magnificent, of course. You know, it was just amazing.
These are good stories of people you worked with. I wanted to ask a couple of non-opera questions.
Okay.
Which they sort of do in these interviews. It's just fun. So what do you do, or what have you done for all these years, especially with those stressful, because it is stressful, traveling and all of that, to decompress?
Well, when you had time, you did relax.
Well,
you know?
yeah. But what are things that you've used in your life that just you can find a quiet space?
I always loved to read and look at clothes and do what everybody else does, you know. And if you have a friend there, it would be. I mean, I remember when I lived in Düsseldorf, and on Sundays, a lot of Sundays, Astrid Varney would spend the Sunday afternoon because she would be down near there doing something Wagnerian that she did so well. And it's always good to have friends. And, you know, it's great when they have children and you can play with the children. And, you know, if they have any kind of animals, I'm for it, you know.
The classic little opera dogs?
No, I have a mutt, actually. He's a great dog. He's a black dog. And he knows everything, but he really he kind of scared people because he was just a little puppy and nobody knew that he was that young, you know, and he was just like I almost brought him today because he would really be well behaved, you know, I think. I'm not real sure, but I think he would be.
He'll be behaved, I think. I'm not sure. It's like, uh-oh.
No, but he's a great dog.
Right, he sounds like he's a great dog.
No, he's a great dog, he really is.
So you don't have any secret hobbies, you know, like that you build model aircraft or, you know.
No. I would break it immediately.
Well, no,
my mind doesn't work that way at all. And I cuss my phone out regularly, and I really would like to stomp on my computer.
You did. I called you once, and I wasn't able to get you, but then a couple of days later you called me, but you didn't know that you called me. And we were talking a little bit, but then we got disconnected. So I cuss at my phone too. So I waited, then I called you back, and here we are.
Yeah.
Right. So technology.
Well, I have had my phone now at the company phone, and I've been down to also the Apple.
The Apple Store, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I cannot get my FaceTime to work, and I have these about 5 Chinese students that I love. In fact, one girl is going to come and stay with me for 2 weeks because she doesn't have any place to go. And that's fine because I have a, I don't pay, I said I'm not going to pay much attention to you, but there's the bed in the living room and it opens to a queen size and you're welcome to come. And, but I had 2 sisters and we always had a house full of people. So I'm used to it and it doesn't bother me one bit,
Speaking of iPhones, one of the iPhones many years ago, there was a fluke there where there was a glitch and they would call someone randomly from your phone book. And I had 3,000 names in the phone book and I had just ended a really bad relationship and the phone decided to call the ex-girlfriend. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Anyway, so fights with iPhones, they're legendary.
Well, they do it all by themselves anyway. You don't have to do that.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. It's like, it's just, thank you so much.
I know they have a plot against me. I know it is.
That's a different video series.
I couldn't be that stupid. I mean, really.
I know, well, that's what I thought.
Yes, I can. Yes.
This is,
So, and so thank God for my great assistant.
What kind of, what music do you listen to these days?
Everything. I don't like, if I can't find a tune. I mean, for pop music, I don't like it when it gets so like off the music. I like
off the path.
Yeah, I do. I don't like that. But no, of course I listen to music. I love good drama. I love good plays. I love to read, mostly trash, but I love Harry Potter.
It seems
Harry Potter can make me feel better.
I remember when all the Harry Potter books came out, I was reading and I got in the middle of the 3rd one and I literally put it down and said, I don't have time. What am I doing? It was the first one that was really big. I watched the movies, it was great, but I thought, you've got work to do, my friend. Anyway, but that's not trash, that's wonderful.
No, it's fun. Stuff. It's fun. Yeah. No, it's really fun. And they're great plays and they're great books, they really are.
So this is one of those famous sort of actor studio questions. If you had, but I'm applying to music. Whenever people say to me, what piece would you bring to a desert island? I say, look, I'll negotiate with you 10 pieces, 5 pieces, okay, 3, because one doesn't make sense.
You can't, no.
You can't, but so I never do that.
No.
But
it's always good to hear it when you have heard it for a while.
Right. So if you had 3, I'll even do composers, if you only could have 3 composers. It's a silly question, but it's just
3 what?
3 composers on an island. Like you could have all their music, but
let's see, there's Verdi, then there's Verdi. Then there is Verdi. Mm-hmm. But I love Puccini. I love all. I don't know.
Would Wagner be there?
Oh yeah, and Strauss would be there too. I was so impressed because my husband was a conductor.
Was a conductor, yes.
Yeah, taught me an awful lot. He would come back sometime and he said, "Schatz," he said, that G, what did you do? I don't know. What did I do? Tell me, No, but I love pop music. I love, but I would have to say Verdi, Wagner, Strauss.
Those are
but the Italians I love, Ponchielli, and I love.
It's a harder question for you because you're someone who has had such a varied number of roles and languages.
Yeah.
Some people just have their one sort of strain.
No, I did a lot of stuff.
How did you meet your husband? That was one of my last questions. And did you sing with him?
I had to do a Christmas Eve, I think, a Christmas Eve or a New Year's Eve thing of an operetta, and I was singing my laundry list in the courses because there's no way in the world that I could get it all together. So they sent me to him because he was an Austrian and he had done a lot of operetta. So I don't think it was not maybe it was the Going About On. I think it was the Gypsy Baron, and I had to learn it and I did. Whether it was that good, I don't know. They didn't ask me to do it a whole lot after that, but we did it for New Year's Eve, and I met him, and then we started going out for coffee. Just happens. But he taught me. He was a wonderful coach, and he really taught me well, and I learned a great deal from him.
Did you end up doing a lot of productions with him, or no? You did?
Yes, I did.
That must be.
It was interesting. I mean, once in a while you get a director that everybody wants to kill. And
right.
I remember doing Tannhäuser, I think, and it was in Cologne, and the stagehands, every time they made out a performance plan with punishment, and you would have to go and work in the theater where the director was head director. If you didn't behave yourself, they were going to send you there. And I've forgotten where it was.
Oh, wow.
But he had me, first of all, I had a costume that they said, oh, Frau Dunn is going to come in here and laugh herself silly when she said. I came in and burst into tears. I said, I'm wearing that. Just, oh, you know. And he had me carried on somebody's shoulder. There's a lot of meat to sit on a shoulder, really, you know. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I'm not, you know, very little. And I thought it was going to break my neck. And he also had it that the people who were carrying people around couldn't see. They were being told where to go with a radio or telephone.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, the conductor, and I cannot remember his name. He was bigger than... He was just before getting shot in the war. And he said, "Was ist das?" And he just canned it right there. And it was not going to be, they weren't going to do that at all.
Wow.
So
I have a sort of my closing question, and then if we have any other stories you want to share, we'd love to hear them. But this is that classic question, which is, if you hadn't taken this path of being a great singer and this international career and huge life in music, what could you have seen yourself doing?
I've asked myself that, and I have no idea. It would have been something that kept me busy, I know that.
Right.
I know that. But thank God that I heard the music, and I was very blessed and very lucky. And I feel that way very much to have sung with the people I've sung with, and where, you know. Mm-hmm. And I feel very blessed to be in this fabulous school, and it is. And I don't think there's any one that comes closer.
Well, certainly on behalf of MSM, I know that all of us, past,
and
present,
thank you
and
very
future.
much for asking me today.
Oh,
I've
it's
had
my
a totally
pleasure.
good time.
Oh, this has been so much fun, and we're so grateful, and I'm so grateful that you were up for doing this, and MSM thanks you, and you're a treasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. A great
you.
pleasure. Thank you.